Hello student, today we are going to discuss about the menstrual cycle or ovarian cycle. Menstrual cycle or ovarian cycle, it is influenced by a group of hormones that are categorized into gonadotropin and ovarian hormone. Gonadotropin hormones are secreted by hypothalamus and anterior pituitary gland, which is present in the brain, while ovarian hormones are secreted by ovary. First hormone released by hypothalamus, which is gonadotropin releasing hormone. As the name suggests, this hormone induces the pituitary gland to release gonadotropin hormones, which are luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. In those, the first hormone which influences the menstrual cycle is follicle stimulating hormone. As the name suggests, follicle stimulating hormone stimulate the growth of the follicle in the ovary. In our previous lecture, we have studied that ovum is present inside the follicle. The early stage of follicle is known as primordial follicle. Primordial follicle has centrally placed ovum and the flattened epithelial cell or follicular cells are present around it. Here, large number of primordial follicle transform into primary follicle, but this transformation doesn't need the follicle stimulating hormone. In this graph, we can clearly see that at early stages, gonadotropin hormone level increases continuously, while follicle stimulating hormone level is increased at the early stages of menstrual cycle, which stimulate the growth of the follicles. Later on, primary follicle will transform into secondary follicle in presence of follicle stimulating hormone, and here secondary follicle grows in size. Inside the secondary follicle, there are special kind of cells called granulosa cells. Granulosa cells are secretory in function and they secrete the hormone estrogen. In this graph, we can clearly see that as the follicle develops, the level of the estrogen is also increases. In the first 10 days, when the estrogen level is very low, this low level of estrogen inhibits the production of luteinizing hormone, and this mechanism is known as negative feedback mechanism. In this stage, the secretion of luteinizing hormone is inhibited because luteinizing hormone is essential for ovulation process. This is the proliferative phase, and estrogen induces the uterine wall to proliferate. Development of the uterine wall is essential for the implantation of zygote. Or follicular phase or post-menstrual phase. Duration of this phase is from 5th day to the 13th day. Here, many secondary follicle matures into Graafian follicle and the level of estrogen is suddenly increases. This increased level of estrogen induces the secretion of luteinizing hormone, and this mechanism is known as positive feedback. In this graph, we can clearly see that the increased level of estrogen induces the production of luteinizing hormone. Near the 14th day, the level of luteinizing hormone suddenly increases, and this will result into the ovulation. At the same time, we can see that the level of follicle stimulating hormone also decreases. This decreased level of follicle stimulating hormone inhibit the growth of other follicle which are at growing stage. Fully grown follicle doesn't need the follicle stimulating hormone. In this way, only one follicle will take part in the ovulation process and other will die. This is the importance of decreased level of follicle stimulating hormone. On the 14th day, it is the phase of ovulation of the menstrual cycle where mature follicle rupture and completely develop ovum released outside the ovary. This is due to the presence of high level of luteinizing hormone. Ovulatory phase is the third but the shortest phase of the menstrual cycle, which lasts for only 1 day. As the ovulation occurs, ova enters into the fallopian tube where it has chance to being fertilized by sperm. After fertilization, zygote will form and this has to implant on uterine wall for its further development. As we can see, the corpus luteum will synthesize small amount of estrogen but high amount of progesterone. High amount of progesterone will induce the development of uterine wall and uterine wall become very much vascular and glandular. It secrete mucus and other chemicals. In this way, this will be the secretory phase of the menstrual cycle where uterus is ready for the implantation of zygote. Here, corpus luteum will synthesize or it secrete the hormone inhibin, which inhibit the secretion of follicle stimulating hormone. And due to the inhibition of secretion of follicle stimulating hormone, new follicle will not develop. At the secretory phase, the level of progesterone also increases, and this increased progesterone level inhibit the hypothalamus to secrete gonadotropin releasing hormone, due to which follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone will not synthesize. It means no new follicle will develop and no ovulation takes place. In the graph we can see that increased level of inhibin inhibit the follicle stimulating hormone and progesterone level inhibit the gonadotropin releasing hormone level.